Okay. So we've been doing this series in Say Yes to Soul. We started a new series where we're actually doing stuff on wealth consciousness. We're literally clearing the limiting beliefs around wealth consciousness and how we can experience wealth, abundance, prosperity in all areas of our life. So
Hmm.
we're going deeper into the conversations. We've been talking about it for a minute. We're going deeper into things. Today, we're going to be talking about allowing wealth to actually land in the body. So, we're talking about when holding wealth in the physical body means allowing more support, more rest, more money, more health, like more choices versus trauma responses,
Hmm.
actual choices, and basically more freedom and ease in the physical body so that it becomes safe and it becomes familiar to be able to hold this well. Um, Going deeper into this today, well, let me ask you about that. Do you have anything to share about that part?
I was in an entire thought process as you were sharing that, and what I was seeing was all of the reasons that make it hard to actually hold wealth, and the reasons and the conditioning around the places where support doesn't feel safe, where visibility doesn't feel safe, where receiving doesn't feel safe. Um, And so, yeah, I definitely resonate with what you're sharing, and I'm loving where the conversation is going.
Okay. I like that I could see. That's why I'm like, I'm going to stop right here because I could see like your wheels turning and that you were in a
Hmm.
thought process. So I wanted to see where you were at. Okay. So I'm glad that you talked about the feelings, right? Because we're going to talk specifically about this part about what feelings are happening, right? Like
Hmm.
how are we feeling when we receive support and how to feel because it's so important, especially here in the physical body, right?
Hmm.
It's so important when we're receiving support to feel that gratitude, that appreciation, to feel safe in these higher vibrational frequencies, right? Because now we can be in that frequency of reciprocity, and that's also the frequency of prosperity, abundance, all the things, right? And that whole thing, like in the last episode of what you talked about, your dad would always say, well, the more you give, the more you get. It's really important to be in this frequency of gratitude, appreciation,
Hmm.
authentically giving from the heart, right? But what a lot of times where it's the hard, like where you're like, it kind of feels hard. A lot of times, the hard is the feelings that come with it because of the conditioning that we've received or the trauma that we've experienced, especially if you've been in financial abuse or anything like that, or experienced financial abuse. And it's feeling these feelings of love, gratitude, and appreciation. So we're in this higher vibrational frequency, right, to receive wealth, abundance, prosperity, instead of receiving. And now all of a sudden there's a shadow expression of that we feel shame, we feel guilt, we feel obligation, we feel pressure, right? That type of thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I really love this conversation because something that I've been really sitting with is, am I able to receive? And how expanded is my capacity really? Because when I really think about it, it's kind of the conversation that we were having recently is it's actually not me. In a lot of ways, because when I really feel into, do I have the capacity? I do have the capacity to receive. I do have the capacity to hold. The difference is where discernment comes in, and also the where or the who. So it does make a difference for me personally. And it's going to be interesting to see because now I'm journeying with, okay, can I shift into that higher frequency regardless of the where, the who it's coming from?
Okay, I love
Uh,
this.
yeah.
I'm like, I love this because this is exactly what we're working on in Say Yes to Soul. It's exactly what's happening, right? Of being
hmm
able to have the ease, regardless of the where or the who or the how, and just being able to receive
hmm
because, right? And to be
Right.
able to use the discernment and all those things, but also not have that old programming running in the background, right? Like that's not, it's like just being gratitude for this. I have an
Mm-hmm.
example. So as we were preparing for this, I have an example. It literally happened this morning because I've been doing the same thing. Like, what is my capacity to receive? What is
hmm
my capacity? Because at the beginning of this clear, maxed out like maxed out. That's where I'm finally realizing when I sat there and I went, how come all the things that I want in life, this expansion, right? Let's say in business, in relationships, in health, all the things, right? Why is it not here in my physical 3D plane? Where am I not like prior to having this in our awareness, right? I'm like, I want it. It's my desire. So I know that it's out there for me. These are the things that I desire. So I know they're actually there for me to receive. And also, I know what I want to give and I need to receive in order to give. So, like, what's going on here? And then something happened today that made me go, I don't have the capacity. That's what's going on. So, and this is silly. This is so silly. Okay, so this morning, my husband comes in and he's like, I'm getting ready, to film and everything, and I'm preparing, I'm contemplating all the things and all the stuff. Discover I'm kind of running short on time. So I thought, oh man, he has the day off. And so I was literally contemplating in my mind when he walked in. I'm like, should I ask him if he could make some breakfast? Because I'm just gonna have to take something real quick that's probably not super healthy for me, whatever, and just like run out the door. He
hmm
comes in, and I was literally thinking about this. I was like, oh, but there's some leftover breakfast from the other day, but there's only enough for one of us to eat it. So I was like, I could just take that. That's going to be my grab and go because I thought, I don't want to interrupt what he's doing. It's his day off. Like I literally inner dialogue that's happening. He walks in and he says, hey, do you care if I have the leftover breakfast that's in there? And what happened is I said, yeah. I go, yeah. And then I went into panic mode, right? Nervous system went, oh shoot, and the restriction and everything else. Like that's what I was gonna take, da da da. And I went, so then I realized, like, obviously, we're here. This is in our awareness. So I shift and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ask him. And so, hey, yes, I don't care if you do that, but also I'm running a little behind and I was just curious, like, do you have time to make some eggs? Like, do you have time to like do something like that? And he's like, oh, um, yeah, or you could just take the eggs. And then I was like, well, I was going to ask you if you wanted to make breakfast real fast, but I understand if you're busy. Like, I'm literally doing this whole thing, right? Like, going, oh, I understand. And I'm shrinking a little bit. And I'm like, kind of like this. And he's like, no, I can totally, yeah, I can make breakfast. And then he goes. And the whole time I'm like, oh man, maybe I should just tell him no. I could literally feel the whole old programming literally running through my body, like the unconscious programming, right?
hmm
I started to feel guilty. I started to feel like I'm like, okay, what's this? Oh, it's guilt. And then I started to do the whole, and he's in there like whistling, like he's having a great time. He's making breakfast. He could care less. He's like, yep, doing his thing, whatever he's doing. And I'm back here feeling guilty. So I went, okay, why am I feeling guilty? And I started to go, all right, what was the conditioning? What are my past experiences? Da 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 da. Da. Um, yeah. So I was in a past relationship. I laugh because it's like to even think like, wow, I wonder where this came from. But I was in a past relationship where it was like, if I would have asked that same question, in fact, to be honest with you, I had to make breakfast every morning, regardless of if I was running late, regardless what was happening that day. I would have to get like I would get up at like 3 in the morning sometimes just so
Mm.
that I was up early enough to make breakfast for him to go to work, you know. And I'm like, oh my, and it's so long ago that I don't even think about that. It feels like a totally different person. I don't recognize that person, I don't recognize any of these things. And so
Mhm.
whenever that came back in my awareness, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why. That's why, because there was the expectations and there was also repercussions if that didn't happen. So going back to everything, if anyone has been watching all of our other episodes, it's like, holy cow, look at the conditioning that happens, even if you don't, it's not in your awareness or anything else. It's like that totally, the only reason why I shifted is because we do this work all day, every day. And I realized, oh, here's old programming. Oh, it's guilt. I'm going to ask for what I want because here we are in wealth, abundance, and prosperity. And it is supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be easy, but we make it hard on ourselves. So, what do you like? Do you resonate? Do you resonate with any of that stuff?
I do resonate with that scenario, although I don't comply with that scenario anymore. Um, and I feel like a lot of that is conditioning that even comes with just gender roles, generally speaking, just the feminine being a nurturer and a provider in that way when we're talking about like breakfast and stuff like that. Um, and I was on a completely and totally different train of thought that I was getting ready to share. And now I can't remember what it was. Um, I just totally lost it.
That's okay because it's like it's funny. I literally like I'm sitting here
Oh,
smiling at myself even because I'm like
I remember.
that's hilarious. Okay, go on.
Yeah, I remember what it was now. So as you were sharing that, I was imagining the entire scenario, and I'm curious to know if in that moment, because we've been having this conversation about the pressure and the stress and the like the fracture point where you either continue the stress in the pattern or you make a different choice. So, do you recognize that pressure from that scenario this morning that had you make another choice and get a different outcome? And
Yeah.
this is like a really good way to be able to start to gauge how it feels in your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did because I felt the pressure of, I'm just not gonna, yeah, he can have the eggs, right? Like
Hmm.
he can have the leftover breakfast or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
yep, he can, that's the pressure of the quitting, right? So from the previous episodes. So that would have been the pressure of quitting. But because I made a different choice and I went, but I am working on wealth consciousness. I am working on receiving more prosperity,
Hmm.
abundance, and everything else. And there's nothing harmful in asking. I'm in a wonderful relationship where he's fine with that stuff. In fact, our human design stuff, like I literally have to ask him what I want and then he provides type thing. Like, or obviously if he couldn't, he would say that. He has no problem with that. But the part here was that guilt,
That's,
that guilt and the
yeah.
whole thing. And so like the pressure would have been like, oh yeah, I'm not going to. I'm going to sacrifice. So this even comes from the other episodes. I'm going to sacrifice and I'll just grab like something that's processed, even like a protein bar or something. And that will be my breakfast instead of me literally asking, like I had it all planned out in my head, even. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, he has time. I think he has time. Yeah, I have time. I would have time to sit down and have breakfast if somebody else made it. I
Hmm.
literally went through my analytical brain of all this.
Hmm.
Then it was that pressure when he actually came in and he said what he wanted,
Right. And then you're
you
like,
know.
oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah. And that was the whole like, So it goes back to like the conditioning of expectations, and it was gender roles. That's exactly, it was the gender role thing.
Hmm.
And that's why I had to provide that. And in fact, it wasn't even a thought. Like there was no way I could have asked the same question in that other relationship. So yeah, this work is fascinating because yeah, it's fascinating because now we can get where we get to the actual root of that because there's something previous to even that situation that has happened, right? And so
Hmm.
we get to the root and say yes to soul of like, oh my gosh, what's the root imprint that created this old programming that I didn't even need to do? That took so much energy
Yeah.
to have all that inner dialogue and everything happen.
Right. And now, even within this entire scenario, the end result is now you have a new reference point for leaning into support and being able to receive. So
Yeah.
that's a new imprint that's going to create a new neural pathway moving forward.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and that's amazing because this is where we bring all the old shit and the old emotional baggage from everything else into new relationships.
Yeah, it's true.
And they don't even know it,
Hmm.
you know. So it's so funny. Do you have anything you wanted to share on it, or would you like me to ask you a question? Because I'd love to ask you a question.
Ask me a question.
Okay. So how does clearing and how does the work that we do in Say Yes to Soul actually support embodied wealth and being able to hold that?
I think it's just exactly what you were just talking about. We're getting to the root of those very first imprints that we ever actually um, had an expectation placed upon us, had a repercussion for receiving, had any time that we might have shrunken or not felt worthy of receiving. I mean, basically that is what is going to allow us to be able to expand our capacity to receive and hold wealth is getting to the root of why. Why are we doing this to begin with?
So if you're curious about the why, join us in Say Yes to Soul. We actually have a promo going on. If you use promo code Say Yes, you get extra savings. So that's kind of
Mhm,
fun.
mhm. Yeah, so just like, share, and subscribe, and definitely join the conversation. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah. And also, okay, one more thing too, for those of you who are in Say Yes to Soul, because I know a lot of you watch. So if you are in Say Yes to Soul, we would love to hear um, how are you holding wealth in all five bodies as you integrate this clear? Or even what are the patterns? Like what are you seeing? And actually this is for everybody probably. Like what are the patterns that you're seeing whenever we're talking about that? What's the inner dialogue that starts to happen when you actually want to ask for support? You actually want to ask for support. Do you
Mhm.
resonate with that? Or is there something else that you experience? We would love to hear. Okay.
And live your life today.